Good afternoon and welcome to a webinar from Linköping University. Today, the webinar has the title Modern and Forward Thinking, Studying at LiU. My name is Therese. I'm a communications officer and I'm here with two students who will introduce themselves a bit further, but it's Hela, second year student from Colombia, and Adam, who's also a second year student from the US. But we'll hear a bit more from them shortly. Just a quick housekeeping. This part of the webinar is being recorded. We will have a Q&A session later on. That part is only for those who are watching live with us. So if you have any questions throughout, please put your questions in the Q&A section, not in the chat, because we will be answering the questions in the Q&A section. We are going to talk about all things Linköping University, how to apply, what it's like here, what it's like to come from a different continent, because you're both from different continents, to Sweden to study. But why? Let's kick off. Let's start with Hela, who's to the left of me here. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Well, hi everybody. Like Therese mentioned before, my name is Hela Galvis. I'm coming from Colombia, and I am a second year student in the Master in Business Administration and Strategic Management. And yeah, like right now, I'm almost finishing my master's studies, and I could totally say that it is like a deep learning experience. It's way beyond like the academic curriculum. I think coming to Sweden and learning from the Swedish culture, and not only Sweden and Swedish people, you actually learn from cultures from all over the world. My program particularly has people from, they really try to have people from all countries and all continents. So I've learned a lot about culture from Bangladesh, from China, from different countries in Africa. So I would say like, yeah, you definitely learn a lot. And right now I'm focusing in my thesis that is related with HR and international talent. So yeah, that's what I can share with you right now.
Sorry, rookie mistake, me in the mute. See, after a year, still. Adam, please, would you like to share your story with us?
My name is Adam Gracheck. I am a second year in the Intelligent Transport Systems and Logistics program at Linköping University. I'm coming from Columbus, Ohio, where I received my Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Engineering.
Thank you. Tell us a bit more, Adam. While you're talking, we'll continue with you. How come you chose this program in Linköping and Sweden, really?
Yeah, after I finished my bachelor's studies, I was really looking to continue my education with a master's program. And I think like many students out there, they'll find that their cost of tuition for their master's can be really expensive in their home countries. And this was the case for myself in the US. So I was looking for options abroad to continue my education. And I looked at quite a few places in Europe, specifically in the UK, but I chose this program in Sweden because of its sort of multifaceted approach to how to work with transportation engineering and sort of this cross-disciplinary aspects of working with things like 5G and mobile communications, autonomous vehicles. And I think like many programs at Linköping, you'll find sort of this multifaceted and cross-disciplinary aspects to the programs. And that's why I chose the one that I did here at Linköping.
Thanks. How about you, Hela?
Well, I think I was very interested in Swedish culture. I have come here before. I studied a short course in Stockholm regarding like a digital strategy. And I was mesmerized by the different philosophy regarding education and the way they're looking at business, and especially looking at like teamwork. I never seen anything like that. I think Swedish culture is quite special when it comes to collaboration and to create like this open environments for work. And that is completely different from like I was used to back in Colombia. It's more hierarchical, it's more results oriented. I think Sweden has a lot of process oriented, yeah, like goals. It's not all about like what is going to happen at the end. It's like how we're working together in the best way possible. Then I found this particular master, which is a mix. It's sort of like an MBA, but also it's like a scientific approach to management. So I thought it was quite interesting, and yeah, I'm quite happy. I'm also really happy with Linköping University as a whole. I've been reflecting about it, and this component of innovation, I think it's really present in all courses. I think like innovation and like creating from scratch, like what you're learning, I think it's a constant and it's like almost a challenge from every teacher. So I'm quite happy about that.
Great. Picking up from what you're saying, I often hear from our students that you do have this very open relationship with your teachers, really, and you challenge each other. Can you talk a bit more about the atmosphere in the classroom and the relationship between, well, both you and your peers, but also the staff?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's quite unique from, I would say right now, my experience here at Linköping University, but also like, I think this is like a Swedish way of working. So you don't feel like that hierarchy with your teachers. Like actually the teachers is like a person that is supporting you, that you can contact anytime, you can email them. I have a chat group with my teachers. Like it's like a support system. And of course they guide you, but they're not telling you what to do. You have to figure out by yourself. So even when you have like very clear and direct questions, they're never going to reply you with an easy answer. They always, sometimes they answer you back with another question, or sometimes it can feel very confusing because sometimes you just need an answer, but no, they actually open a complete new chapter about whatever you're studying. So yeah, I think that it is helpful, but it's not easy. And you have like a very kind of team-made communication with all your classmates and with your teaching team.
Adam, you're coming from a different part of the university in one sense. I mean, LA is studying in our faculty of arts and sciences, whereas you're in the sciences side and studying an engineering program. How do you, I mean, does this sound familiar, what Hela is saying? Is there a difference in your experience?
No, I would agree. I think there isn't this sort of hierarchy that you find in typical university structures. The difference, I think, is that her program, I think, is a bit more discussion based, and mine is sort of more of like the technical aspects and formulating things in softwares, and sort of that focus to the program. But it is that close relationship with your professors still exists in the engineering programs. There's one professor that I have that I've worked in sort of my IoT and smart city courses, and we ended up working on a research proposal together. Well, I actually assisted him in this research proposal earlier last year, and then now he's helping me with my thesis. So there really is the opportunity to form good relationships with the professors that you're working with that can lead to research opportunities, possibilities for your thesis, and even PhD positions if you're interested after the fact.
It sounds like a great way of actually getting your foot in the door with a research group if PhD is what you'd like to pursue. What about your actual, the day-to-day? You're saying it's different. Hela has more discussion, you have more technical. When you were lucky enough to get here for at least one semester before this big scary P word appeared, or C word, corona pandemic. What is it like, a kind of regular day? Are you at school a lot? Are you in seminars, in lectures, or do you sit at home and write? Or I think it's going to be different perspectives, but I'd like to hear both your perspectives. Adam, do you want to start?
Yeah, the first semester that I was here was all in-person courses, and that was a combination of lectures and labs. So we would have maybe 2 or 3 lectures per class during a week, and then some sort of lab that we would work on in a computer lab and work with different softwares, and sort of solve problems and work in teams to solve these problems, whether it be in like Python or MATLAB or Java, different softwares that we used. And since the start of the pandemic, there has been both a complete online version of that and also a mixed version where we are coming in person for maybe labs or lectures and then doing the other half online, in sort of online components. But it's less discussion based than the other master's programs, I think. I think most of the engineering programs, you will find sort of this teamwork, collaborating with different labs and learning material related to lectures. Yeah.
So you would say that you spend, more 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 in seminars or classes rather than self-study.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you, Ella, what's your experience from your program?
Yes, before the pandemic, I think I was quite a lot of time in the university because not everything is going to class and take lectures. I think like regarding lecture time, it was like 3 times a week, around 2 hours or 3 hours. But yes, it's absolutely right. As Adam mentioned before, my program is a lot based on discussion, based on group work. Of course, we had a lot of individual work, but I really like to study at the university. The new building of the library is fantastic. It has like great space, and you can actually book study rooms which have like everything that you need to focus and concentrate. And that at the beginning was a little bit hard for me when I had to stay home all the time with the pandemic. Now I'm used to it, but in the beginning you really kind of feel the need to have like this study environment. And yeah, I really like that also from the Norrköping campus and also like the Linköping campus. I think both campuses are a bit different, but it has like this space that you can find for yourself and study and really concentrate and then grab a coffee and meet with friends. So yeah, that's a huge difference.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we have actually, I don't know, did we do this deliberately? But we have chosen backgrounds from our 3 main campuses. I've got the University Hospital, kind of, you don't see much of it, but that's what I've got behind me. And Ella is actually sitting in, pretend sitting in the student building, the student house that you just mentioned, with the library and lots of communal areas. And Adam, which is also fitting because Ella's program is based in Linköping, whereas Adam has a beautiful Norrköping campus behind you, with the water, which is in an old historic part of town with the old textile factories. So I think it's actually, it's great that we've chosen the way we have. I would actually like to, before we move on, to talk a little bit more about your journey here, and the applying and so on. I thought I'd just share a slide or a few slides with our programs, because we don't just have the 2 programs that you represent. Let's see, share. There we go. Right, I am sharing this now, aren't I? Let's see. As you said, we have 29 programs and 28 are master's programs. There's 1 bachelor program. You can see quite a long list of engineering and computer sciences. Your intelligent transport systems and logistics program is right in the middle there, Adam. And the university started in 1969, I believe it was, as an Institute of Technology, and then we became a university in 1975. But you still see we previously had the majority of our programs within engineering and computer sciences because of how we started. But the arts and sciences is the fastest growing side of all our programs. And a lot of these programs, you can see we have environmental studies, but a lot of these programs actually have an environmental aspect, because I think that's at the heart of a lot of what we do and what we believe in Sweden. And we've got the 1 bachelor program, which is experimental and industrial biomedicine. some of these programs are online, such as child studies, gender studies, and we also have adult learning, which was on the previous page. So those are our programs. And let's talk about, before I go to the next slide, I think we should, am I back on the screen now? Stop sharing. That we should talk a little bit about how to apply and how you did it. And you know, now that if you're watching this and if you're from a non-EU country, the application period is between 15th of October and 15th of January. So you have plenty of time to start preparing now. There is actually an application round opening that opened yesterday that closes on the 15th of April, and we call that our national round, and that is only students from the EU in terms of international students are eligible to apply, because the results come out in July, by which time it's way too late to apply for a residence permit. So we'll show you some key dates in a moment pertaining to both those groups. But I'd like to hear a bit from you guys first about how you found the application process. Shall we go to Adam?
Yeah, the application for my program was pretty straightforward. You have it's been so long now, I can hardly remember what it was like, but you go through the Study in Sweden portal, I think, and you apply that way. And the requirements for my program were very straightforward. It was basically you needed to have something like 22 math and science credits and a copy of your bachelor's program and everything. But there was no sort of personal letter or anything of that sort. It was pretty straightforward, and you just submit the documents that you needed and pay the application fee. So it was quite easy.
Ella, was that your experience too?
Yeah, I totally agree with Adam. For me, it was just like reading very carefully everything that the admissions website says. I think all the information is right there when it comes to documentation, when it comes to key dates. I just actually followed all the instructions, and I just received notifications that I passed and all the further steps to get into my study plan and starting classes here. So I didn't have any issue at all. And otherwise, like, you can always email. There's always somebody to email and get in contact with, and well, you will have like some answers in a couple of days.
I think the website you referred to there is university admissions, but I'm sure there are links for study in Sweden as well. But university admissions is the go-to for all information. But each program page has really important information. So if you look at the page and then you actually expand on a box near the top, you'll find, information such as if the program's online or if it's on-campus program. But also the specific requirements, and this is really important because, as Adam mentioned, you mentioned some of the kind of requirements that you need to have, and I think all programs have specific requirements, because in Sweden we follow the Bologna system, where a master's is a continuation of your bachelor. So you can't really, there are a couple of programs that have a very broad intake, but I don't think either of yours do. So you actually have to have a background in the area that you want to study it. But as you said, it's you just have to meet the deadline of 15th of January, and then you have until usually 1st or 2nd of February to submit these supporting documents. And again, on university admissions, have a look for your country specific requirements, because there might be something specific. Like, for example, Adam, for the US, you would have had to have your university send your diploma directly in a sealed envelope, whereas Ella, you probably didn't have to do that. You could send an official copy of it. So there could be little things like that you need to keep an eye out for. But I shall share some of the dates with you. So let's back to share my screen, and then we're back to PowerPoint. Let's see. Somehow. There we go. So yeah, these are the key dates. So if there are any EU students, I'm just going to do this really quickly, because I don't know if there are any here, but they do have an April deadline, and then you prove citizenship. This is the key part, that you have to prove your citizenship, and then the documentation, as I mentioned, and then July, you get the results. But for non-EU and EU citizens are also welcome to apply in the what we call the main round, and so for now that one will open, and we're talking about intake 2022. So it's not this coming autumn, but next year. So mid-October, the application period opens, and then you have until 15th of January. The sooner you apply, the better, because the sooner you might be made aware of things missing or errors you've made. So don't wait till last minute. And the 15th of January online application deadline is important in the sense that if you want to apply for a scholarship, there are a couple of things that you then have to fulfill. One of them is to have applied on time, and it's also to have chosen the program that you are looking at studying as your #1 priority. When you apply at university admissions, you can choose up to 4 programs from same university or different for different Swedish universities, but you then rank them in order of importance. And if you want to apply for a scholarship, you need to have ranked that program as the #1. And then early February deadline for the additional documentation, and then the admission results, which will come out soon. So 2 years ago, you were there sitting there waiting for you to see if your life was going to completely change or not. And then the application for scholarships. It's a short window of a few days, but that opens after the results are out. And then the fee payment deadline, which is for the non-EU citizens. The reason EU citizens don't pay a fee is because Swedish students don't. And within the EU, we are not allowed to discriminate other EU citizens. So if a rule applies to Swedish nationals, it also has to apply to EU citizens. But then the fee payment deadline, which is important, and the date is set so that you have enough time to apply and get your residence permit through. Would Ella and Adam, do you feel that I missed anything? I mean, you've done this process.
I think you've hit it right on the head. I think it was perfect. Yeah. Thanks.
Is there anything that you wish you had known? Is there anything that you feel, not necessarily in terms of in talking about the application process, but the whole coming to Sweden or starting your program? Is there something you go, all right, I wish I could have, go back and tell myself to do a certain thing?
When I first came to Sweden, or when I was in the process of applying to my residence permit, I was slightly behind on the deadline to apply for the actual permit itself. And I think that's because I was very used to, in home universities in the US, sort of this constant email updates on walking you through the process. The university doesn't take into account anything related to your residence permit. I mean, they're not going to walk you through the process of applying or making sure you hit certain deadlines. So it's really important that you keep track of the deadlines set forth by Migrationsverket and make sure that you have everything set in stone and ready to go. That way you're not in my situation a week or two late from the deadline that you should be applying. It was a bit nerve-wracking.
I'm glad you made it anyway. How about you, Ella?
Me too.
Well, yeah, I had to remember a lot of things, like thinking back in that time. But I think the key is to do research about everything in Sweden. I mean, you're coming to live here in this country. The university gives a lot of help and guidelines, and there's always going to be somebody able. You can go to the info center and reach for somebody to ask anything, but there's a certain extent that you have to take full responsibility when it comes to transportation, health insurance, like any other office in the government that for whatever reason you need to approach. You need to learn how to do those things for yourself. So that is key. So one thing is like looking all the services and all the things that the university can help you with, but also try to understand Sweden as a whole, like as a society, how the offices work here, like the medical system is very particular, at least where I'm coming from. So learn everything from scratch and don't get desperate if you don't understand. That's quite common. And also like rely in your classmates, because in the beginning, especially, everybody is in the same situation. So really try to create like a network of a support system from the beginning. And yeah, we can help each other, you know. And that's why like I highly recommend like checking the blog that we have, like the ambassadors, we have a blog and we have an Instagram account, but most precisely in the blog we discuss a lot of these topics, because right now we all been through those things. Like somebody could have somebody fall in the bicycle and they have to run into the emergency of the hospital, something, all those little cases that you didn't think before coming here are reading there and then share there. So I highly recommend you to like take a look at the blog, because all those little things that may happen are there.
Yeah, that's a really, really good advice. And also accommodation, because that's often a big worry. If you're going to move across half the world, you'd want to make sure you have somewhere to live. And there are lots of housing companies. I'm afraid there's nothing available through the university, but there are lots of housing companies that you can sign up to. And that is something I advise you to do as early as now, even if you're just thinking about studying here and getting ready, and you know, even if you haven't submitted everything yet, because once you register for housing, you start gaining Q points. And these Q points are really important when it comes to finding somewhere to live, because the higher your points, the bigger the choice. So, and usually most students do stay in student corridors, in a corridor room. So you have your own room, your own bathroom, and there's 8 of you sharing with a shared kitchen and common area. And I would love to ask you about it, but then it turns out that neither of you actually live in student accommodation, but you still managed to find something else, didn't you?
Yeah, I lived in one of the Norrköping dorms when I first came to Sweden. It was slightly different than your typical student corridor. We only had a shared kitchen. Most student corridors have a shared kitchen and living room. And I also had a shared bathroom, which is uncommon. Most people have their own bathroom. But it's that same sort of communal floor living where you're sort of sharing aspects of the floor, like the kitchen, for example, and getting to know the people who live on your floor and hanging out with them. Since then, I've moved out of this, but it's a really good start when you're first coming to Sweden and the university.
Yeah, I spoke to another student the other day, and she said, especially during these times and Corona times where you're not on campus at the moment, you do still have your kind of your corridor mates, and they spend a lot in her corridor. They spend a lot of time together. They have dinners or fika at the weekend together, and it's really helped because it becomes your family. So I think that the corridor life is probably a really good option when you're new. Before we move on to the Q&A section, I just want to hear what have you made of life in Sweden? What has been the kind of ups and downs, really? I always find it fascinating to kind of hear what people think of us. But what have you learned?
Well, I guess I can start. I think coming from Latin America, yes, there are major changes and major learnings and also challenges. I think, like, first of all, my main advice has always been be patient, because basically you feel like you're sometimes in a completely different world. Things work differently. The way we communicate with people is different. Try to be more precise or more calm. Let's say, like in my culture, in Latin American culture, like being very helpful and very friendly is very normal. We're used to kind of say hi to everybody and talk to everybody, and we can make friends in no time. That is sometimes not the situation here. Things take more time. Fika, of course, probably you have heard about fika, but fika is the key. to meet people, especially when it comes to like Swedish people. So just learn the social codes, learn the culture, really, really learn the culture, really embrace the culture. And so, and it is a challenge. It's not like something that you understand immediately. When it comes to that, well, you can also meet people from many other different countries, and you know, like Linköping especially, and I think like Norrköping as well, is like a university full of students. So there is like plenty, well, back in the time when we were not in the pandemic, there were like a lot of activities. So actually I'm part of the student association of my program. I'm also take part of like different activities and communities related to innovation. So having like a social life and having like activities besides your studies is great. So I think you learn a lot through that. But of course, take it easy as well. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming. So also in my particular case, it's so easy to get involved in so many different things that can become a bit stressful. And I also think that you need to be aware that you don't really understand what each course brings. In my case, each course is completely different. There are certain courses that, yeah, it looks kind of easy, and it is, and sometimes it looks kind of easy and it is not at all. And it's very demanding and you really need to focus a lot, and it changes a lot. So I think like measuring your time and learning what do you think it's overwhelming or not, and really learn how to balance those things, I think are key in order to be here for 2 years.
Thanks. Adam, what's your experience been? And maybe as you're talking about your experience, you can explain what exactly is Fika?
Yeah, Ella and I were both talking about this before the webinar. We both plan on trying to find jobs here in Sweden after our programs end. So we like it definitely enough to stay and want to pursue a life here. I would say in terms of the differences between Sweden and the US, society feels very normal and feels very much the same in that regard. There's more sort of social welfare programs that exist in Sweden, like healthcare and university, but the overall culture, I think, is very similar. I will say, though, from the Midwest, where I'm from in Ohio, people are very friendly. People will chat up with their neighbors or the grocery store clerk, or they'll have conversation with just about anyone. And as Ella was mentioning, that's very different here. It's more of an individualistic society. But Fika is sort of the opportunity to meet new people, especially Swedes. And that's kind of, I really like to think of it as almost like British tea time, but with coffee and like pastries. It's sort of the same thing. You get coffee and some sort of sweets, and it's just a break from your studies or your work. And this is actually combined in the classes themselves. There's 15-minute breaks that exist for 2-hour lectures, for example, and that's usually when people would intermingle and maybe grab a coffee and take a break from their classes. So this was a really great time to meet my fellow classmates and learn more about the culture itself.
Thanks. That's actually the case in the workplace as well. That we all have a certain time, 9:30 or 10. Everybody has a break and goes and has fika together. We don't eat sweets every day though, no. Or a sweet thing. I know.
Maybe I just do.
You're still young. You can do it. You can get away with it. But no, we tend to have that. We save that for Fridays. Fridays, it's a massive, quite a feast. But we have a break. We have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. But we do sit down. We do have a break and sit down with each other, and it really helps. It helps with the bonding with your colleagues, and it helps making new friends. Right. I think we should go on to the Q&A. I would just like to say thank you to those of you who are watching this recording. We're actually going to stop here. The Q&A will be for those watching live. So if you're watching the recording, thank you very much for having watched. Have a look at our blogs. Have a look at our how to apply page, or generally liu.se/education, and also our Instagram account, which is Linköping.university, is also run by our student ambassadors, and you get great insight into their lives and their different programs. So check that out. So thank you. And
thank you for having us, Therese.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.